He knew that Crosby wanted to tell him something, but he could not figure out what it was. The dog expressed an interest in the wall for some reason that he could not understand. When he checked the footage from the monitor, he pushed himself out of the chair to check the wall. Crosby noticed what he was doing and wagged his tail with delight. This was the first time that he saw Crosby that animated in some time. What exactly was going on here? It turned out that the wall had all the answers to his questions. Before we begin, make sure to click the like button, subscribe to our channel, and click the notification button for more amazing videos. A single man, George Miller lived in a city far from the rest of the family. Living away from home is challenging for many. That feeling of unfamiliarity and somewhat being unsettled. It can get quite lonely. This is what happened to George. He had begun to feel rather lonely. To tone down the feelings of loneliness, he made the decision to get a dog. The 29-year-old man was very attached to his pooch. To him, it was true that dogs are man's best friend. Miller will tell you just how sweet and loyal Crosby is. However, it turned out that he did not know his furry friend as well as he thought he did. When he found out the truth, he could not help but wonder how his sweet dog would do such a thing. Was this really the same dog that he adopted all those years ago? As far as Miller knew him, Crosby was a nice dog who enjoyed playing with fellow animals at the park. Once Crosby grew close to another animal, he would not want to leave their side. It was not hard for Crosby to trust and befriend other animals. This was evident in the way that he grew close to the dog and cat next door. For almost 8 years, the trio got up to all sorts of antics. All of a sudden, however, his two best friends died one after the other. Their owner had been very sad to lose his two pets in rapid succession. He was not the only one. Crosby was also devastated. Pets love companionship. That is what they value. It is one of the purposes of their existence. When a pet loses this, they too feel sad. They feel the grievance just as much as a human would. It is only natural that Crosby would be a little bit down. However, this was not necessarily the reasoning for his behavior. At first, Miller did not register the change in his pet's behavior. The two of them stuck to their routines, which made it more difficult to spot the warning signs. One day, he finally figured it out. He had just gotten home from work and expected his furry pal to give him a warm welcome. But instead of that, he saw a sight that disturbed him to no end. He could not wrap his head around what he was seeing. Miller called out to him, but Crosby did not respond. After some time, he found his dog looking at the living room wall. Why didn't the animal answer his calls? He was worried that Crosby was suffering from poor hearing. Even as he increased his volume, the dog did not react. Miller crouched down beside his furry friend and looked at the same part of the wall. What exactly caught his attention in the first place? Like any other good pet owner, Miller was concerned for Crosby. He stroked the dog in desperation, which was the only time that Crosby snapped out of the trance-like state. "What is it, boy?" he asked the dog as he stared into those huge eyes. Miller was just relieved to see that Crosby was doing all right. Perhaps he had been staring at a bug. In the end, it turned out to be even bigger than that. After that moment, Crosby acted like his normal self for the rest of the night. At midnight, Miller woke up and headed to the kitchen for a glass of water. When he went past the living room, he noticed that the dog was at it once more. However, he could also tell that there was something different about it this time. Crosby seemed even sadder as he looked at the exact same spot on the living room wall. Miller was concerned. He needed to find out what was wrong with his dog. In the morning, he got up early and went to the nearest store. His goal was to bring home a camera equipped with night vision. He returned home to drop it off before going to work. Miller did not watch the footage once he got back, determined to do it the following day so that he could capture even more footage. He just wanted to find out what was going on with his pet. When he finally watched the footage, Miller learned that Crosby did not act the same way most of the time. It seemed that the dog only went up to the wall when Miller was near. It sounded like the animal was trying to send a message of some sort. Animals are incredibly intuitive. They may not speak our language, but they will find the necessary way to communicate with us and get their message across. Whether it be by barking, scratching, or some other strange movement, in this case, it was staring at a wall. his owner could feel he was saying something. But what? The owner took a better look at that particular spot. Once he entered the room, the dog let out playful barks and entered the room. This was the first time that Crosby seemed happy in a long time. In fact, the dog had not seemed happy ever since his friends died. Crosby barked cheerfully once more when Miller got down on his knees to better inspect the spot. All of a sudden, he heard a shocking noise that made him freeze. What on earth was that? His heart was pounding hard against his chest when it dawned on him that there was something in the wall. He saw that the wooden paneling had gotten loose at a particular spot near the floor, so he broke it off. To his surprise, the drywall had a hole in it. After taking a deep breath, Miller squeezed his hand into it until his elbow was entirely inside the wall. While feeling around, his eyes grew wide in disbelief. Pieces of drywall spilled onto the floor, but he could feel something else. He took hold of whatever it was with as much care as he could before pulling it out. To his dismay, it was nothing more than just a handful of drywall, dirt, and insulation. But once the cries got more urgent, he knew that he was getting warmer. Miller cleared the dirt so that he could shove his arm even deeper down the hole. With great caution, he used his hand to feel around the place. At last, his fingers made contact with a soft and small object. Miller assumed that it was nothing more than wall insulation again, but he changed his mind as soon as he heard a high-pitched whine coming from it. He took this as a sign that he should not give in. With his hand around the small creature, he tried to pull it out of there. This was how Miller found out that there was a kitten hiding in within the wall paneling between the washroom and the living room. The situation was already bizarre enough on its own, but he was shocked to see that the baby looked like Crosby's late feline friend. On top of that, Miller had no clue how the kitten landed in that spot. He could not help but wonder if Crosby had something to do with it. After pulling the kitten out of there, Miller saw how dusty she was. He was confused about how she got there at all. Could the mother be close by? If so, maybe she was looking for this little one. Miller needed to figure out the best course of action. What he did know was that there was no way that the kitten went inside the house on its own. His guess was that Crosby snuck her in because the dog felt lonely. Miller took the time to clean the kitten. With a damp cloth, he wiped all the dust out of its fur. When he looked at Crosby, he found that the dog was looking happy and wagging his tail energetically. From the look of things, the kitten must have been 8 weeks old at most. The truth was that Miller did not know how to take care of her. He hoped that the real owners had been looking for this kitten. Right after this, he started to look for the owner of the kitten. Sadly, his efforts did not bear any fruits. He talked to his neighbors and hung up posters. Despite this, no one claimed the kitten. A few neighbors said that they saw her in the streets, so she must be a stray. After this, Miller brought her to the vet. The vet inspected the kitten, but it looked like she was in perfect health. The only issue was that she was dirty and ravenous, which could easily be fixed. After scanning the back of her neck, the vet told Miller that she did not have a chip either. No one reached out to claim her, even after posting her photo on the Facebook group of the neighborhood. Soon enough, Miller would have to make a difficult decision. Crosby clearly enjoyed the company of his feline friend. The dog started to go back to his old joyful self. It was nice to see this, but Miller did not want a cat. He talked to the vet about giving her to a shelter. It crushed him, but he knew that this was the right thing to do. But something made him change his mind. The vet basically told me that if I took her to the shelter, she'd be put down because there are already over 300 kittens at the county shelter alone that need homes, he said. No one would be delighted to hear such a thing. He said I could try putting her outside and hope she goes home, or I could keep her. After hearing this, he made up his mind that he was going to keep the kitten. When he went home with the newest member of the family, Crosby was thrilled to see what was going on. At last, he would finally have an animal companion at home. On the other hand, the kitten now had a loving home. Miller decided to call her Lil Ray Ray. In the future, he will probably pay more attention to Crosby. When Miller saw what Crosby was like around Lil Ray Ray, he felt more convinced that he made the right call. It felt like the right decision to keep the kitten. Crosby would even let the kitten claw on him and rest on his fur. The dog was very patient with the baby, even though she liked to pretend that his fur was her very own scratching post. We are glad that there are folks like Miller in the world. Even so, this does not change the fact that shelters need as much help as possible. If you can't adopt, you might want to foster instead. Aside from that, it is also a good idea to donate or spread awareness about these organizations. By doing so, you can help give these poor animals a better life. In this case, the kitten was lucky. However, some animals are less fortunate.